Your old friend Joe Scarborough the other day on Morning Joe, the other show I know you're glued to in the AM. He said this about the 2016 presidential field, referencing your son.
There's no doubt that Rand Paul is going. Rand Paul, I think, in most polls you see in the early states, Rand Paul's going to have a big chunk of support, but he's not going to win.
He went on. We cut that short, but he went on to say, this. The kind of Paul approach where you take this aggressive, stance on all these issues, you get a lot of publicity initially that ultimately, cooler heads and more moderate heads prevail, or still conservative, but more moderate perhaps an approach.
Yeah, Joe's been a good friend and actually has stuck up for me quite frequently, but he's sort of falling into the establishment viewpoint, on this. And, of course, that was said about me. But I think times are changing even in a short period of time compared to when I ran in 07 and 08, and now, the whole country has changed. I mean, we've had a major economic crisis, and people have turned against the wars. And actually, Rand does, I think, a little bit better job in presenting these. I want to say this is it, and this is what we have to do, and make it very, very clear. He probably, approaches a little bit, softer and a little more, able to convince people. So I think he's going to have a lot of influence. So Joe doesn't know, and I don't know, and you don't know who's going to be the candidate. I actually get a little tired of running the next election about a week after the last election. That I guess we're starved for discussing what's really going on. I'd much rather be talking about whether or not we need even need a Federal Reserve Board chairman instead of some of this other political stuff that goes on.
Yeah, well, I knew you were going to get to Larry Summers. We'll get to that in just a moment. But is Rand, do you think, more conservative than you, or less conservative? People are always comparing the two of you, and it's obviously that's kind of fun to do, father-son. I mean, we do that with our kids all the time. How do you describe him versus you? I mean, where are the differences?
I sort of get tired of that type of
sorry. Sorry.
But I don't know whether...
My listeners are interested, so I ask.
I think we have to be awfully close. But a lot of people think that, that we are so close that we talk about this all the time. And the truth is he is so busy, and he's doing things that I rarely talk to. When we talk on the telephone, it's usually about family matters and how his kids are doing. But when other people talk about it, they're wanting to look and find, to find disagreements. And there are probably some, but I really couldn't sit here and list them for you. I think it's more the approach that is somewhat different, and the emphasis. I probably came down much harder, say on the Fed, but he supports auditing the Fed. Most Americans do believe that we ought to know what the Fed is doing. So I think it's approach that there's a slight difference, but I don't think basically there's a whole lot of difference on any of the issues.
Do you compost, though? He composts.
Which is?
Compost. You take your garbage and you put it in a big pile with a fence around it and put some like fertilizer and some stuff on. You don't do that? You don't ride your bike like he does?
No, I don't do that.
He just bragged to me that he composts, and I've been teasing him about it ever since. So he's with the kids on that.
I'll have to say he's much more into composting than I am, so that's our difference.
Okay, excellent, perfect.